Justice Half Hour, a TV half-hour crime awareness program brought to you by the Delta State Ministry of Justice. Get to know the law, abstain from crime, and report any criminal activities. Showing to 7 p.m. every Monday on DBS. Justice Half Hour, powered by the Delta State Ministry of Justice, Asaba.
Hello viewers, and welcome to another exciting edition of the program Justice Half Hour. My name is Ifovi Arorio. In today's episode of the program, we shall be looking at the law that set up the Delta State Traffic Management Authority. What mischief does the law seek to cure in society? What constitutes a road traffic offense? What is the code of conduct of staff of the agency? These are many more we'll be asking the Director General of the agency, Mr. Stephen Desima. You're welcome to the program. Welcome back. Now, the DG of the Delta State Traffic Management Authority, people want to know what kind of mischief the law that was established by the Delta State government intends to cure in society. What is the objective of this law? Because a lot of persons have been asking that it appears it's a waste of public funds and that is to cause hardship on the people of the state. What is your reaction to this?
Yes. Mr. Ivobi, thanks for the question about what the law seeks to sort of correct within the state in respect to traffic. Now, the Delta State Traffic Management Authority was signed into law on the 24th of October 2013, but it actually came into force fully by an inauguration process that took place on the 14th of April 2016. Now, since then, what the authority seeks to, the vision of the authority is to ensure free flow of traffic for better socio-economic activities within Delta State. That is the vision of the Act. Now, our mission is to reduce road deaths and injuries on our roads and to enhance socio-economic activities which arise as a result of conflict on our roads, delays, congestions which lead to traffic moving slowly. Now, the basic functions, though we have 21 functions, they have been, you can categorize them into 5. 1, traffic control and enforcement. The second function is public education and enlightenment. The third one being road research and statistics. 4th, driver training and certification. And finally, to bring about traffic safety and accident management on our roads. So anyone who, for example, flouts any of the laid down penalties, then that person is an offender of the traffic regulations.
What constitutes a traffic offense, and how has your agency been enforcing the law?
The traffic offenses have been categorized into 1, license conditions. What that means, for example, is that somebody driving without a driver's license. Now, the agency does not mount roadblocks checking driver's license of motorists. Those whose licenses are demanded are those who commit traffic offenses, and we use that to actually determine the identity of the driver in question and to be able to know that he's actually licensed to drive on the road. Now, we also have conditions with a vehicle defect. Other offenses fall under the use of alcohol and drugs. others with regards to motorcycle riders, those who ride motorcycle who are unlicensed and do not use the helmet. We have violations, speed violations also come under our purview, and we also have those who assault our officers. Now we have over 60 offenses, so we cannot actually get across to all of them. But let me give you a typical example of them. Now, let's take a roundabout, for example. Although we've not started enforcing that, if you are approaching a roundabout, you are to give way to traffic on the left entering the roundabout. But if you look at most of our drivers, it's like the survival of the fittest, who gets to the roundabout first, gets into the roundabout. But it is actually a traffic offense whereby if you are entering the roundabout, if a vehicle is entering the roundabout from the left, the vehicle on the right has priority over that vehicle. And that offense, when we begin to implement that, offenders will be made to pay 7,500 naira. Because if you look at motor accidents on the roundabout, it's as a result of people not even knowing the basic rules of the road as to who has priority. Now, also driving under the influence of alcohol or the use of drugs, that will incur 5,000 naira. Now, one thing we must begin to understand is this. All the various traffic offenses have been put in place because of the implications and the consequences of breaking that law. Let me give you a typical example about the use of alcohol. Now, there is this feeling, in our society that when you have taken alcohol, you tend to be more agile, you can control the situation, but that is not the case when it comes to driving. Because when you use alcohol, if you are over the limit, for example, your reaction time is slower. So your braking distance tends to increase. So with such situation, those who use alcohol or drugs and drive, they sort of fall into the category of being those who cause so many of the accidents, on our roads. Now, illegal U-turns or driving one way, for instance, that would incur 25,000. Now, the reason why driving one way has implications as to the use of the road is this. Say, for example, if you are driving on a dual carriageway, there's this mindset that you have, which is every vehicle is going in one direction. So if another vehicle decides to drive against traffic, you might see the vehicle in front, but you might be thinking that the vehicle is going in the direction you are traveling. And before you see, if two vehicles are driving side by side, then the chances are that you might not be able to have that time and space to avoid that vehicle. So those are the implications. So every offense that we have is based on the consequences of that offense on road safety and the safety of other road users.
Sir, what is the code of conduct of staff of the authority, and what measures have you put in place to checkmate excessive behavior and abuse, in the light of the fact that in Edo State it was abused there, where the governor eventually disbanded the authority? What do you have to say about this?
Now, code of conduct is now being an authority, we owe Deltans a duty, and the duty we owe Deltans is that we must approach Deltans in the most civilized manner, and that is where the issue of customer service comes into play. Now, customer service in the sense that if, let's put this way, in this way, that we are selling a product, but not a product in its real sense. Traffic offenders are our customers. And when you are dealing with your customers, you must deal with them with all respect. So the code of conduct of our officers are well laid down in the civil service rule, which is you must approach traffic offenders with utmost respect. Using the word, please, can you pull over? Can I have a look at your license, please? When you talk to people in a very civilized way, in a way that make them feel, wanted or respected, there's that possibility that they would obey you, and when they have found one thing, they'll be willing, to pay the penalty for their actions. Then on the issue about the Edo State example you gave. Now at times, uniformed men, have this particular air around them that, it's like they are above the law, they can do anything. And when you look at the Edo State example that was disbanded by the governor of the state, it was as a result of the heavy-handedness of the officers. Now today we had a pep talk to our officers, and we raised this issue about being civil to the officers because it was disbanded because the public were now crying foul. Yes, there was outcry from the public that, yes, you are trying to control traffic. Yes, you are trying to make sure the roads are safe. Yes, you want to prevent accidents on the road. But if you want to apprehend an offender, must you pounce on them as if they are criminals? They are not criminals. They've just committed an offense. And some people might even claim ignorance of the law. Such individuals, you will educate them. You not knowing that the law exists is not an excuse to break in it, because that is why we are continually carrying out sensitization and enlightenment scheme. But what I'm going to assure Deltans is this. Our officers would not get to that level whereby they will be seen as being they versus us. We are all Deltans. Would explain to Deltans when they commit traffic offenses in the most civilized manner. And when you do that, there's that possibility of conflict not arising, and that would also not lead to the agency being disbanded, because the governor, who in his magnanimity decided to bring it into force, is because we are fed up of the number of road crashes on the road. Our citizens cannot continually die on the road because of the actions of other drivers.
All right, we'll proceed on a short break now. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Rape, kidnapping, child abuse, and armed robbery. Now crime when they against the law. Commot body from all these kind of yama things. Make life better for me and you. I don't know before, not be excusable. This message now from the Delta State Ministry of Justice, Asaba. Justice Half Hour, a TV half-hour crime awareness program brought to you by the Delta State Ministry of Justice. Get to know the law, abstain from crime, and report any criminal activities. Showing to 7 p.m. every Monday on DBS. Justice Half Hour, powered by the Delta State Ministry of Justice, Asaba.
Welcome back. You're still watching Justice Half Hour. And we have with us as our guest for today's episode, the DG of Desima. And before we went on the break, he was speaking on the code of conduct of officials of the agency. And he said that Desima does not take cash. We should deal with only uniform officials who wears blue uniform with black beret and don't pay cash to anybody. And now, sir, let's look at the issue of officials of Desima. It has been observed that aside the uniform officials, there are other officials allegedly from your agency and the Ministry of Transport that operates within the state capital. What do you have to say about this?
Now, the point is, like, when I started initially, I mentioned that, the law came into effect on the 24th of October 2013. So as at that time when the law came into effect, the need for controlling traffic was already established. Now, from that period up till when the inauguration took place on the 14th of April 2016, there was an ad hoc scheme in place. So they had a task force to control traffic in line with the Desima Act. Now, since inception of Desima, the task force ideally is supposed to have been disbanded, but we are still getting complaints that, you find them on the streets, like in Warri, for example. There have been some areas that have been mentioned to us, Jakba Junction, Enere Junction, then in Asaba here, the market and the expressway. Now the point is that because this is a new authority, we cannot take on board the enforcement of all the infractions. So what we're doing is that we are being selective, and it's a gradual process until we get to enforcing all the traffic rules and regulations. Now, I think what is happening is this: those who were doing this prior to the establishment of, or prior to the inauguration of the authority, maybe they're finding it difficult to retract. But I think just last week here, because of this concern, the Commissioner for Transport, Vincent Udwara, had a meeting with the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers and other stakeholders who were sort of, I think, helping the ministry then, because they knew the drivers. So they had a meeting and told them that, look, those functions have been taken over by Desima and they should not be harassing motorists again. So what we appeal to Deltans is this: the uniform of Desima is blue on blue with a black beret. Anybody not wearing that uniform that stops motorists as to one thing, to book them for an offense, they should resist them. Not resist them by fighting them or anything, but you should resist them. Then another thing I need to tell Deltans is this: Desima does not take cash from offenders. Because the moment this issue of cash payment comes into the system, there's that possibility of bribery and corruption, filtering into the system, which we're trying very hard, to avoid. So we don't take money from motorists. When you commit any traffic offense, the citation is read to you of your offense, then a booking slip is given to you. You take that to the bank and pay into any of the government IGUs under the heading and subhead of Desima. So with time, because we are just barely 3 months or less, and with time, maybe by the time we are 1 year old, all these complaints will be a thing of the past, because those who are actually trying to enforce the traffic rules, and the main purview of that lies with Desima, with time will gradually make sure that they get out of the system.
Let's also look at the parking, because it appears a lot of controversy when officials, allegedly from the Ministry of Transport and your agency, who go about losing some person's vehicle number plate in respect of parking. How should motorists park along the roads?
Now the point is this: now if you look at when roads are built, let's say the dual carriageways, they are built for two vehicles traveling in the same direction. Now, because we do not have an organized parking system in place, then it is allowable for drivers to park about 6 inches from the curb. If you park about 6 inches from the curb, then there is that possibility that the road space that is left will still be enough for two vehicles. But at times you look at people park, they park about 1 foot from the curb, and in some cases, there is another vehicle parked side by side, thereby depriving other motorists from using the road space. So if you look at it, this has to do with driver training generally. People get scared that when they are trying to park, if they are too close to the curb, my vehicle is going to be dented, because they have not been trained properly to use a particular method in parking. So when they park, they are too far from the curb, thereby blocking the road space. So if people park on a single line close to the curb, I can assure you that our men will not come in to impound or give them any citation as to having parked wrongly.
So 6 inches from the curb?
Yes, 6 inches from the curb. Then on the roundabout, let's take a typical example on the roundabout. No vehicle should park on the roundabout. Because the roundabout is such a tricky situation in the sense that when a very big articulated vehicle is entering the roundabout, the positioning is different from when a small vehicle is entering. So they take a wider space. Now, if there are vehicles parked on the roundabout, the chances are that for very big vehicles, there might not be enough room for them to maneuver around the roundabout. And because on a roundabout, two vehicles can go on the roundabout and out, if another vehicle is parked on the roundabout, the chances are that you are likely going to cause a lot of problems, possible accidents, because if one wants to avoid maybe a car in the inner lane that is veering more to your side of the road, then there will be no space for you to escape a collision. So the point is, when vehicles are parked there, they are more of danger to themselves and and other road users. So the whole thing is about, when we are driving, we must think it this way: am I using the road space effectively and efficiently? Am I sharing the road space with other road users? Are my driving actions impacting on other road users? If that is the case, what are the consequences of my driving action? Am I likely going to cause accident on the road? So those are some of the questions drivers will begin to ask themselves. And when we begin to enforce our driver training aspect of the laws, you will find out that when somebody commits an offense of not driving properly on the roundabout, when we take them into our training section, these are the things that we will train them. Because currently, we have to be honest with ourselves, there's no proper driver training before people get their licenses, so they don't even understand the basic rules of the road, use of signals, use of road signs, yes, and stuff, yes.
On the issue of your duties, it also appears that there is a clash between your authority and that of the Federal Road Safety. How have you been collaborating with them to avoid conflict of interest?
Now, the issue of traffic management, there is never one agency with the sole responsibility of enforcing. Now, let me just take us slightly back. The issues of vehicle administration and transport administration is in the residual section of the Constitution, and that is vested in the states. And that is why, for example, LASMA, people say LASMA is doing a lot. LASMA is doing a lot because they've taken what is ideally their function and implementing it. But the points are because the Federal Road Safety Commission has been set up in good faith. The only thing we can do is to work collaboratively with them. Work collaboratively with them. But let me give you a typical example. Desima will never mount a roadblock and ask for driver's license. The only time Desima officials would ask for your driver's license if you have offended or if you've broken any of the traffic rules and regulations. Like I said earlier, so that we can use that to establish who that driver is. So road safety can actually stop you and ask for your driver's license because it is in their duties. It is not in our duties to do that. But we can ask for driver's license because we want to establish the identity of the traffic offender. But if you don't have a driver's license, then we can actually now book you for not having a driver's license. So driving on the road without a driver's license is like a time bomb on the road because you don't even understand anything. Even those who have driver's license cannot drive properly. Not talking about those that do not have. So if you look at the functions, we would work closely together with all relevant agencies, the police, all uniform bodies, road safety, and other agencies in this field in making sure that we make our roads safer for Deltans.
Okay. Your message for road users, as we very briefly, sir.
My message for road users is this. Apply the rules of the road every time you're driving. When you're driving on the road, on the dual carriageway, make sure you keep to the right. Use the left-hand lane to overtake and come back to the right-hand lane. When you want to move from one lane to another, make sure that you give an indication to the other road users your intention. And the only way we communicate as drivers is the use of our indicators, turning right or turning left. And the only way we also communicate with our other road users is if you are slowing down, your brake lights coming on. So you find out that part of our function will be when we start the enforcement of the use of lamps in cars, those who do not have indicators, those who do not have brake lights would have committed traffic offenses because one, nobody knows your intention, whether you are turning left or turning right. If your brake light is not working, the brake light is not coming on, so the other driver could easily run into you. So what we say is that let us share the road. We all own the road. Drive safely, drive within the speed limit. Do not drive under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And for cyclists, they should always use their helmet for their safety. So that's my message to the motorists of Delta State and Nigeria in general, because if we do that, we'll have the possibility of reducing road accidents to the barest minimum.
And that is it. We have been speaking with the Director General of the Delta State Traffic Management Authority, Mr. Stephen Diesoruwe, who has been speaking to us on the functions and the mission statement of the agency that was set up by this administration, ably led by His Excellency Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. And that is it for this episode of this program. Join us next Monday for another exciting episode of the program Justice Half Hour. Bye for now.
Justice Half Hour, a TV half-hour crime awareness program brought to you by the Delta State Ministry of Justice. Get to know the law, abstain from crime, and report any criminal activities. Showing to 7 p.m. every Monday on DBS. Justice Half Hour, powered by the Delta State Ministry of Justice, Asaba.
Jesus, aren't you just everything to us? You're our master, you're a savior. Everything that we are, you are, Jesus. We just want to say that we love you, God. And you're the reason that we live. We bless you, Jesus. You are the reason I live.